Hey everyone, welcome to another OSR Tabletop live stream with myself, DM Bloodworth, Richard, for those of you that may know. And, just wanted to do a live stream. It's been a couple weeks since I've done that. Oh, I have sound coming through. Hold on. Let's turn that down. And sorry about that. So I see some people are already watching, and we have Mac right here. So, hey, how's it going, Mac? And the Ultra American TTRPGer, good evening. Happy New Year for any of you that I haven't already spoken to. Ajax, hey, how's it going? Blueface smiling, greeting. Hope you are well and still gaming. Of course, still gaming. This morning, I ran our 8th session of Fallout. So, my players. I actually have a new opening in that Thursday afternoon game. So it is from 12 o'clock to about 2:30 uh, Eastern time. So going really well. We've been going pretty solid now for about 8 sessions. We've had a few breaks because of the holidays and such, and we're going to miss next Thursday because I will be at the Philadelphia Area Game Expo. But one of our players has been able to return to work, and so his work hours obviously changed, and we will have an opening in that. So if anyone is available Thursday at noon Eastern time until about there's short sessions, about 2.5 hour sessions. I've been doing really well. It's been going well, and they're in the process right now of reconstructing their home, and they just installed electricity and running water to their home. So now the rest is still need to get a fourth functioning bed and some more lighting and such inside the place. But they're working on it. They're piecing it together very well. It really is quite amazing how well Fallout tabletop RPG from Modifius really does mirror what you're able to do in Fallout 4, in the CRPG. So they really do coincide with each other very, very well. So pretty cool stuff. Ducato, hey, how's it going? Good to see you. Happy New Year. And Roger, same thing. So really looking forward to your convention. So that is the Central New York RPG convention coming up in June. I'm going to forget the dates off the top of my head. I want to say 16th to the 19th, but I'm not quite sure. You can post that in there. And yeah, I definitely want to have you back on in a couple of weeks, so that we can keep on pitching that. I have Rising Phoenix coming up in April, and Scott has already sent me my badge, not physically, but attached a badge to my account, because I am running at least 12 hours of gaming while I'm there. And looking forward to that convention as well, June 14th through the 15th. Thank you very much. And I will do postings throughout the next couple of weeks. And that is a Saturday and Sunday convention. So I will be arriving on Friday, just so I can spend all day Saturday and about half the day on Sunday. So looking forward to that as well. Not unless I leave really, really early Saturday morning. Probably like I would have to leave like 3 a.m. in order to get there in time for the first session on Saturday, which is like 8 a.m. or something like that. So not looking to do that. I'd rather just get there the day, the evening before, and be able to just spend the whole time Saturday. So anyway, um, so yeah, basically this is kind of like an open door, open forum. Anyone can come in and talk about what's going on within the hobby, what's going on within your own gaming, what's coming up for your conventions, and whatnot. If you're attending a convention or if you're running a convention, so Roger, you're certainly welcome to jump in there and give us some more details. Although I'd rather have you on the channel and we can actually do like a whole interview like we did previously and see how things are coming along. So that would be anytime beginning after next weekend. So I'll be wide open for those kinds of discussions as well. Um, and then I was, basically, like I said, there's stuff going on within the hobby, and a lot of talk now about decolonization in Dungeons and Dragons, and there it seems to be a very cyclic thing. So like every 60 to 90 days, a new brouhaha comes up to just, I guess, raise everyone's attention, let's say, to this. And I know it's been getting a lot of coverage on all of the a lot of the channels and everything. Some have been actually not even mentioning it at all, and others that are really in tune to the controversies and things like that are really jumping on it. And it's really quite interesting because I'm starting to see other other YouTube sites or YouTube channels that are normally not attached to tabletop role playing games, and they're jumping in on these various little controversies that are rising. So I'm particularly thinking of like Clownfish TV, which is normally not a TTRPG site at all. They usually spend their time with Hollywood entertainment and movies and movie uh, not publishers. What do they call those? Like a Disney or any of those. The big companies that run studios. That's what I was looking for. Those kinds of controversies and stuff like that. But Clownfish TV has been going more and more into the tabletop role playing space. And so that's kind of interesting. Uh, Strange how OSR retro games don't have the same controversies, and that's a really important point to make, and it was something I was going to say too, because there's at least one other YouTuber out there that takes like the exact opposite thought on that and says, um, OSR doesn't have controversies because not enough people care about the OSR, which is really a kind of like a twisted way of looking at it, because it's like, it's not a good thing that Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro and 5e in general has all of these controversies, and you're acting like they're starving for any attention. No, they're starving for positive attention, which they don't seem to be getting. And that whole idea of any attention is good attention. That's not necessarily true, and I certainly don't see it that way. So you are absolutely right. The OSR and retro games and in many cases independent games don't have these issues, and that's because I think most of us just focus on playing games, and the OSR publishers are just concerned about publishing games and making games that are good and looking to produce a product that people actually enjoy sitting down and playing. And there tends to be uh, a lot less ridicule over their actual game systems as well. So it's like, I've never seen anyone come out and say, oh, this particular system is incredibly broken in Castles and Crusades. It just doesn't exist. There's no place in that game system. I'm not saying that the game system is perfect, but there's nothing truly broken in it. And that is a big difference between things like that, game systems like that, and let's say 5e and some of the later iterations of 5e, going beyond that. And I could say the same thing about index card RPG. I can say the same thing, to be honest with you, with Shadow Dark, that really doesn't have any systematic flaws in it. That people are being, hey, that's something that's a deal breaker that we have to remove from actually running it. So it's a really weird take when you say, well, no one really cares enough about the OSR or indie games, and that's why there's no controversies around them. No, I think that they're just a higher quality. So, anyway, let me get to some more of these comments here. That's because the YouTuber is an idiot supreme. Um, I'm not going to call him any names or anything like that. I just think that he has incredibly bad takes. Uh, Heard also a few RPG YouTube channels are coming to an end with some 100 plus thousand subscribers. Is a shift happening on YouTube. Yes, and that's one of the things that I think is really important here, is that YouTube is actually approaching these bigger channels. I don't think that these YouTube creators are, just on their own saying, um, "Hey, I'm going to change up what my channel is about," and they have 150, 200,000, subscribers, and then just out of the blue, they're saying, "Well, I'm going to move on and do something else with my channel." I think, and I don't think that they're looking at it and they're saying, "Well, you know what? I have 200,000 subscribers and I'm barely getting 10,000 views on a particular video when it used to get closer to, let's say, 20 or 30 or even 40,000 views." I don't think that they're going to say, "I'm going to shut down a 100 or 200,000 thousand subscriber channel just because I'm getting less than 10% views," and just out of the blue and look to change that. What I think is happening, and what I think has happened, because at least one of those YouTube creators, How to Be a Great GM, came out. I forget his first name, but he actually came out and he said, well, he went to the corporate headquarters of YouTube. I guess the one that is in England. I don't know exactly where it is in England or the UK, someplace in there. And he sat down and he spoke to them, and they basically said that his channel is not going to get the same traffic any longer as long as he is still doing 5e content. And bottom line is, he's being told that they're not shutting him down, and he said that as well. He said, "I'm not being shut down. They're not saying that we're not going to shut you down. They're just not going to recommend his content anymore." Guy, thank you, Written. Um, so they're not shutting him down. They're just telling him that they're not going to overly promote his channel anymore. Um, and that must mean that, I think, across the board. And there was another guy, that D&D Shorts guy, that used to point out all of the flaws in 5e, as far as the min maxing flaws and and the way that too many abilities stack with each other, and it creates unbreakable, undefeated, undefeatable, character builds. And that's what I generally realized that his channel was really mostly about, was just pointing out all of these broken builds that you could do in D&D. And so um so he's changing his channel now. I didn't see his video talking about why he's doing it. Like I said, I don't typically follow his channel at all. And I've only made a few comments on his channel from some of his specific videos. And I know I had put a comment in there. It was like, every time I watch one of your videos, I you're convincing me more and more that I'm better off not running 5e, because of all of the flaws that he kind of points out in it. And so that is I think that is the real gist of what is going on right now, is that YouTube is starting to see that there's a diminishing return on on their advertising dollars with promoting these 5e channels. And these 5e channels are in decline. They might not be in decline in subscriberships, they're in decline of viewerships. And that is how YouTube makes their money, and that's how they compensate you for having those videos through. And I've listened to and I've heard other things like it's all about the first hour of a video. And a first hour will make or break your video, as far as the number of views, the number of comments, the number of likes or dislikes, because the likes and dislikes are treated almost the same for the algorithm. And I heard that from Professional Dungeon Master, where he's like, it's really the first hour that they look at. And if your video is not really hitting it out of the ballpark in that first hour, then it's not going to get recommended in any great way. Now, that doesn't mean that your subscribers and your visitors aren't doing the channel or that particular video a benefit if they're coming in 2, 3, 4, 12 hours later and still liking and commenting and sharing it and still getting it out there. It's just not going to be that initial 1 hour big push for it as well. I mean, I've had videos that did extremely well in the first hour or so. And when I say extremely well for my channel, that's like getting 400 views in 1 hour, which is phenomenal for my channel. And recently, that was just the series that I'm working on right now with my AD&D first edition, being geared towards attracting new modern RPGers to AD&D first edition. So it's trying to bring them over to it. And I was asked, how would you make running AD&D first edition more appealing to the modern player? And that's why I started doing that series. And the series is doing well. So I think it's a lot of things that are going on at the same time, but none of them are coming from YouTube saying we're going to shut down your channel, and none of them are coming from the creators saying on their own, just on the spur, that well, I'm just going to change everything up and move on. I'm pretty sure a guy was saying, I think I've done everything I can for as much as I can for my for my content, and there's not much left in 5e for him to do, which is another thing. I mean, there's too many channels, I guess, that are kind of doing the same thing. So there's a lot in there. Listen, I'm going to post the link if anyone wants to come in and talk about that topic as well. So there is the link. Anyone, you're welcome to jump in. Uh, let's see where we left off. His video framed it as YouTube telling him that they won't promote his channel, which makes no sense. Yeah, they're just not going to promote the channel as aggressively as they used to. Perhaps they're just saying that this is not something that we're really going to push. And to be honest with you, I didn't often see his videos coming across my feed on the same regular basis as they used to. I didn't find out about his video until I saw Professor Dungeon Master's video on that topic come across my feed. So um, I think they definitely have downscaled his the algorithm for his channel, and are not quite shadow banning him, but they're certainly not pushing it out as much as they did 6 months ago or more. I used to see him come across my stream a lot more often. Since he started his channel, the market has become flooded with 5e content creators. Yeah, and if he's the ins and outs of being a game master, since he started his channel and the market has become flooded with 5e content, well, yes, there's certainly a glut of 5e content. And perhaps he wasn't being very effective at it, right? Because I think for the most part, 5e still has a GM shortage. And so maybe it's just that. Maybe that he's producing this content, which is really important content to produce. New players, the ins and outs of being a great game master, and yet not very many people are picking it up as a game master for 5e. And I think it has less to do with the actual core rules of 5e that are making it harder for game masters. But I think it's more the the culture of the players coming into a 5e table, and all of their requests or maybe even demands, and what their expectations are for what a role-playing game is like, and so on and so forth. And that's why you see this shift in the attacks on the old school, and the attacks on some of the ways that we used to do things, and this real push now that we're starting to see from third party content creators for 5e, starting to include some of that language and such in their products now, trying to appease modern that modern mentality, and very, it really is a very colonial mentality that they came into this hobby with, around, 2018, 19 or so. And so they in fact are the new colonists of, of this hobby, and they're certainly exploiting it as much as they can, and trying to wrest control over the entire thing. So let's see what we have here. So I would jump on, but I'm busy making a mess in the kitchen. Yeah, anytime you're ready, I will be here for at least another hour and a half, for sure. So if you're anytime you can jump in, you're welcome to. I wish I could restream to work on my PC. It's because no audio issues. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind. This is an important topic. for the hobby. I have noticed very few gaming vids appear. Yeah, I think that they have been declining. Now, there's the ones that I always see because I follow them and I look for them, and so I see their things come up very often. But some of the others, and I follow too many, to be honest with you. I follow too many, so I'm not surprised that, the ones that I might watch like 3 times a week, they still come up. And then there's others that don't. We're connecting to your channels. Active chat enabled here. That's weird. I got a little message down here. I guess my internet connection might have been hiccuping. So let's see. Max says, in my daily feed on YouTube since Christmas, I thought it was going just a fluke. Maybe this shift is part of it. Um, I do have to say that, like, my January numbers. I mean, this January has been an absolute explosion. So I'm not really just looking at this January because my subscriber count is up over like 100 subscribers this month alone, and it's only the ninth. So it is far more. I think it said something like I'm 60 above what I normally get per month. So that's a big jump for my channel. But when I looked back at my algorithm over the last couple of years, I was looking at, and January is always a big month for me. So looking at some of the other channels that are popping up in my feed, um, I'm still seeing a good number of channels coming up, but those are the ones that I visit the most. So the other ones that I used to see more often, that I might only catch like once every week or once every 2 weeks or so, those are not coming across my feed like they used to. Um, Hey, Paul. The sky isn't falling. Yeah, the sky is absolutely not falling. At least I don't see it. And luckily, thankfully, I'm not seeing it. I've actually seen a bit of an uptick, like I said, for this, and I completely attribute that to, finding something that people really wanted to watch, and that was that AD&D First Edition series that I've been working on. Um, so I've definitely seen it there. And I know I made a comment in Professor Dungeon Master's thread that he was talking about his video, and I said, this is why I don't make content for 5e, is because I know that there's just too many channels out there. Number one, and number two, I'm not ever going to get to 100,000 subscribers. I find it hard to think that I might even get to 10,000 subscribers, but that's not what I'm looking for. I just want to create content that you want to listen to. And, whether I get, eventually I'll get to 5,000, let's say, but I'm not, it's like that's not something that's really driving me, is sub count. What drives me is the comments that you're leaving on the channel, and we're having this back and forth, and you're giving me suggestions of what you would like to see, and then I'm able to bring them to you, and then the video gets a couple hundred views or maybe a little over 1,000 or whatever. Those are big videos for me, and and that tells me that I've produced something that you want to see. All right, so that's what really drives me, more so than the idea that someday my channel might have 10,000 subscribers. I seriously doubt it, but it's not a it's not something that I think other channels, especially those that have been at the 100,000 plus, when they start to see that their videos are getting, you know, 2,000 views, or 3,000 views, that's what's really getting them because they've been used to those huge numbers, and now they're declining. I know that they were making a big deal with Critical Role when Critical Role stopped getting less than 70,000 views on a specific video, and I'm sitting there as a someone who's been around now for a little over 8 years, and I'm like 70,000 views. I mean, I'm a little bit over 500,000 views now overall for all of that time and over all of those 1,500 or so videos, and they're worried about not getting 70,000 views on a single video. It's just a totally different world, and it's a totally different headspace that they're coming from, and they're looking at it. So when they look at it, they're like, oh my gosh, this is a huge difference. And to me, it's like I can be satisfied with a video that gets 50 views, and I'm elated when one gets over 1,000. So I'm somewhere in between that section there, and I'm okay with that. And so that's, I think, something for us as people who watch channels, or as other YouTube content creators within our space, which is a very small space, admittedly. Like mostly most of our channels are under 10,000, and so even though there's quite a few of us, and we all kind of share the space, and we all go to each other's channels and whatnot, and like and subscribe and chat back and forth and everything. um, I don't think that we come to I don't think we come to YouTube with that same kind of mentality of, we're in this to make a second living off of it. It's just, we're here just to service our viewers, and that's it. It's not a big thing. I mean, I'm retired, so it's not like I'm going to say, oh, I'm going to quit my job and just do this. This is just a hobby, and it's one that I really enjoy, and it's one that I'm happy to continue doing. And if I get, like I said, if I get 50 people watching, or I get 1,000 views on the video, um, I really look for that engagement more so than how many views it gets. So I'm a white belt when it comes to running a YouTube channel. I put up some series of shorts during my group's gaming weekend last week. They average around 500 views, except for one that got 2,000 views. No idea why. Yeah, and that's the other thing. It's like it's kind of hard to determine when, especially with shorts, when a short is really going to explode. Like I had when I was doing some of those Frank Frazetta, or maybe it was the Boris cards, and I was showing those art cards off. Like one was like 2,000 views, and then all the rest had been like 200-300 views or whatever. And I was like, what made that one image one that got just so many more views than everything else? Because I don't think it was an image that was so evocative compared to the other ones, that I was like, it was just weird. It's like sometimes it's hard to tell what is going to bring a lot of people to a particular video. Um, I know that some people have been talking about that, and I'm going to put the link in there again. I know some people have been talking about it, and they've been saying, well, it's, and again, back to Professor Dungeon Master's channel. He put out a thing that says, clickbait. Clickbait is what brings people in to look at it. And I've had other people say that it's drama farming, when if you talk about controversies, that is what brings a lot of views in as well. And, and I'm sure that to a certain amount of there's a certain amount of accuracy in both of those statements, but Clickbait is not going to get you to finish watching the entire video. You're going to tune off of it as soon as you realize that it is clickbait. Um, the other trend that I see, which is an absolute deplorable trend that I see on YouTube, and I'm calling this out right now, is the freaking AI narrated videos. I cannot stand these, and I'm seeing them mostly in like sports and politics and that kind of thing. Everything is like, I don't think that there is a single uh, WNBA video that is out there, except for maybe one or two creators. But the other 25 that are out there, everything is AI narrated. I can't take that, and I don't even see why anyone would sit through that and watch that. It is so lifeless to listen to an AI narrative that it's just crazy. Um, so let's see. Critical Role is a waste of time and space. Never liked it. Too fake. Yeah, I've watched bits and pieces of it, and the only time that I really thought anything was interesting on it is when there were character deaths and there was a big, explosion of, oh my gosh, this is the most, tragic thing that ever happened. And then I watch it and I'm like, to me, it was the only authentic thing that Matt Mercer actually did in that moment, was let the character die, because that's just how the dice rolled. I was like, you should be praising this, not attacking this. But that was where, that's where that community is right now. That's in the headspace that they're in right now. And that's the element that has come into the hobby through 5e, looking for that kind of gameplay where there are no consequences to characters aren't supposed to die, and so that's the only thing that I saw about Critical Role, was that Matt Mercer was had the integrity to stand by the dice rolls. And so that's, like I said, the only positive that I really have for it. Um, hey, Semperfi Shark, good to see you. Chomp chomp. Hoorah, hoorah. All right. So, yes, it's good to see you all. So, Ian Spears. That's why it amuses me when people try to compete with them on views without having a studio and all the professional editing and everything. Plus, I mean, they're voice actors. I mean, they're all actors, and they're all very good. And you know, I'm not going to say that Matt Mercer is a great dungeon master. There's no doubt about it. I mean, and not just because of his voices and all of that, but he knows what the hell he's doing. Um, so no problem with that whatsoever. I love the first two seasons of Vox Machina. I enjoyed watching them. Um, I thought that they were far grittier than I thought they might have been. Um, a little bit too a little bit too loose and everything with the cursing and some of that stuff. I It's really not to my taste. But for the most part, I enjoyed them. They were good to watch, and they weren't overly. You could still see some of the D&D in them. All right, so let's put it that way. So you still saw some of the game mechanics taking place on the screen, and that's what I like to see. Yes, Shark, I am doing very well actually. So thank you, and I'm really within a week from now. So 1 week from now, um, I will be running my I'll be running my Shadow Dark game at Philadelphia Area Game Expo. Exactly 9 minutes ago, I would have been starting that. So anyway, let's. Oh, I forgot to do something here. I will jot this down, And let's see. Let's do another hour and oh, they don't let you do an hour and a half. All right, 2 hours I'll do. They have this new thing on. They have this new thing on this here. So they have this new thing with goals that you can set up goals for the chat and give prizes and that kind of thing. So I will put that out there. I'm still messing around with some of this stuff. Let's see anything else coming up, and I am going to give some free memberships out as well. Um, so that is something else that I will be doing. The only thing is I can only do that through the direct connection through YouTube, which is kind of weird. But anyway, um, I agree, but that's what the general public think D&D is: Critical Role, Stranger Things, and whatnot. The Dungeons and Dragons, as little as they actually showed in Stranger Things, but certainly during that during the last season or whatever, I think that was the last season when they were actually playing Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, that was rock solid stuff. I mean, that was literally as close as I've seen an actual play that is that's portrayed the correct way. So that's my little first drink of the new year as well. Um, all right, let's get caught up to some more. Yeah, he might not be he might not be to everyone's taste. Um, no, Gary Kahn is unfortunately too far for me to go to. It's plus I don't think I would really like that convention. Um, I think it's a little too big for me, and but primarily it's just I can't get out there. Um, it is too much of a drive. It's a 15-hour one-way drive, and it's just too expensive to fly there. And Gary Con as well is an expensive con to go to. It's expensive for the tickets. It's expensive for the hotel, and then you have to, from what I understand, um, you have to take a cab or whatever from the airport to that place as well, and so it just becomes Gary Con would cost me. I think I figured it out one time, would probably cost me a little over $1,400 to attend. And that is about what I spend on going to 5 other conventions that include a 2 to 3 night stay for 3 of those conventions. So yeah, it's one. I can go to one con or I can go to 5. I'm going to go to 5 every time. So yeah, Gary Con or any of the Midwest cons are kind of out of my travel range. So I'm hoping to see anybody that is, that I'd love to meet in person. Hopefully they hit some of these East Coast cons, and as they're getting bigger and bigger, like Page is now, huge. It's like 1,300 people have already bought tickets, or 1,400, something like that, and there's other cons that are also getting a little bit larger. So you live in North Dakota. So yeah, so it's closer. We got a hotel 15 minutes away, and we're driving to North Dakota. Sorry to miss you. Yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe, well, I'm not going to say someday. If I were to go out there, it wouldn't be to a Gary Con though. It would be to either Avenger Con or to a Dave Con or to I think there's Wizard Con in Michigan. And those are all smaller cons. I'd rather go to one like that than go to something as big as Gary Con because it's just not what I'm looking to do. I would not want to go there and schlep a whole bunch of stuff. Plus, that's the other thing. I would go there as a player only, and because I don't want to have to lug all kinds of stuff with me, just to run, just to run 3 sessions or so. So let's see, what else do we have here? So I'm trying to think of anything else that had come up during during like the last week or two, that really kind of struck me as an odd thing or whatnot. I meant for you, Richard. I read where you said you're going to be at the same table as the leasing. You know what? It's so he. I watched his video where he was talking about it, because he didn't put this on like directly on his channel, or at least I didn't see where it was at. But I'm pretty sure it's the same Mike Shea, because there could be a different person, but I'm pretty sure it's him. And so I watched his justification of it, and I completely disagree with his view on the point where he's saying, well, it's the colonialism, and he's put it in that book there, and it's one of the reasons why I don't purchase anything that is written for 5e. I did not pick up anything from Trollord Games, is by far my favorite publisher, and I didn't buy any of those books that they had that were for 5e, that they were selling for a huge discount. All right. And I wasn't going to buy a single one of them, because I just have no interest in 5e. And I think 5e brings just the wrong mentality for gaming in general. And like I said, it didn't start that way in 2014, 15, 16 when it first came out, but it certainly devolved into that. And I put that around, 17, 18, 19 or so. That's when it really started kicking in. And, and certainly everything thereafter has been, in my view, literally crap. And some of these third party creators that are still trying to latch on to that 5e train, instead of weaning themselves off, which the OGL crisis was the perfect opportunity for them to do so, but they couldn't pull themselves away from the WotC teat. So they went right back to it again, as soon as much of the brouhaha had kind of came down a little bit. So yeah, when I watched his video and watched his justification for it, his attempted justification for it, and it just came off as the same thing like Jason Tondro did with the disclaimer on the 50-year history of Dungeons and Dragons. Just completely unnecessary, and a completely just just missing the point that you don't have to make what you're running at your table mirror in any way the real world. It's like you can have inherent evil, all right, that the players are fighting against. There's nothing wrong with that, and the fact that he's like, oh well, that's a colonial thing. It's like you're playing a fucking game. Remember that you're playing a game. And he was talking about, well, we're supposed to better ourselves at the table. No, we're playing a goddamn game. You know what I'm saying? We should be good to each other, when we're playing at the same table, but that's not, I'm looking to improve my, my life and my outlook and my everything, based on how I ran my game this morning. It's just not what 99% of us are into gaming for. Let's see. So let's see. Let's see. Oh, I will. All right, we got a Roger. Hey, Roger, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing?
All right. Oh, you sound good too. So, all right. Always got to check that. Make sure that that sound is going well. Let me get to some of these comments here real quick. The This will be my first big con. Yeah. So I went to Gen Con in 1985. That was pretty big, I guess. You know, I've been to big cons before, but not tabletop role playing cons. I've been to the Javits Center for Comic Con, and it was like 60,000 people, and it's overwhelming. I couldn't even imagine a gaming con for that. Roger, I'll let you jump in.
Oh,
How's it going?
I'm sorry, I was waving to Decado there. He said, "Hey, Roger." So I
Oh,
didn't want
okay.
to interrupt, so I waved.
No, that's fine. So I used to watch Shay's channel, but he got more and more spineless until I unsubbed. Yeah. I, again, I think it's that they are they were not many of them were not prepared. I'm still not prepared to just cut themselves off from 5e, and and instead just you can write your third party materials, which I think they do anyway, but you could write it for just a D20 system, or you could write it for a generic OSR or basic D&D kind of system, and you'll sell just as many. But anyway, I'll let you chime in on that
Yeah,
if you want to, Roger.
yeah. It's funny you mentioned that stuff, right? Like I agree with you, but the one part that I kind of disagree, and I had this conversation with someone. I think it was last Sunday at the end of our D&D game, and we were joking about that. There's map books that say 5e or 5e compatible or whatever on them, and there's books of maps or whatever, and I think it's like the same thing though. I think like the 5e, like that's what's pushed so hard. When you look up
Mhm.
Dungeons and Dragons, right, you see 5e everywhere. And so I think by putting that compatibility logo on there, like you get maybe in the search results or whatever, at drive through or wherever, one bookshelf or wherever you're searching for stuff, where people see like the OSR logo, 5e players I'm talking about, obviously not
Yeah.
anybody that's here probably, um but I think that there's a lot of that where people will they see, oh, it's 5e compatible, let's buy that or whatever. So I think that's why a lot of these places put that 5e thing on there.
Well, yeah, it's totally just to try to extract any kind of money that you can. But you know, one of the things that even Wizards of the Coast was saying was that the player base really doesn't buy stuff. So is slapping a
Right.
5e on it really going to sell it? I don't know. I mean, there's no way to prove one way or the other, you know, um, what is actually selling out there. But I don't think that slapping a 5e on it is necessarily going to sell more books.
Sure. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I definitely agree with you, but I mean, like, that's the thing that they just want to push that now,
Yeah.
5e, and I say they, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Anybody that's not in the OSR, it seems like those are the two sides of it. But um, I mean, I get it from Wizards' point of view or whatever. They want to sell their product. They don't make money on any of the older edition stuff or the OSR stuff. Um, yeah, I want to sound like I'm defending them. Obviously, I mean,
Yeah.
I won't play 5e. I'll play it. I've played it occasionally, but I won't run it. It's not my game of choice. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I wanted to pick up on Ducato's thing here. So he ran Kobold Press Empire of the Ghouls Adventure and had to take out the ghouls at people because it was too much for him. So um, was it too much for him or too much for a player? I'm not sure there, but you put 8 later on, so
hmm,
take out that the ghouls 8 people because it was too much for him. Oh, so it was too much for him that the ghouls were eating people. Um, I mean, that's what ghouls do. It's like it's
Yeah,
like zombies eating brains, right? It's a it's a thing. If that was too much for him, then why was he running Empire of Ghouls? That makes no sense. I was thinking it was more like a player, and he removed it for a player, which I think is equally bad. I would remove the player before I'd remove the ghouls. I'm saying it's like um, it's like that instance that I read about where when the safety tools was first starting to come out of Monty Cook Games and everything, and the example was given that someone was running, Demon Queen of the Web Pets, and one of the players was, petrified of spiders, and so they had to remove all of the spiders, and other spider-like insects from. I was like, so you're going to remove the driders, you're going to move you're going to move the spiders themselves, you're going to move Lolth from it, because that's the form that you see her in for most of it. I was like, just tell the player to leave. It's like, and that's much more easier, simple thing to do than it is to try to remove all of that stuff from your game. Just say, hey, this is not the game session for you. Kind of should
sure.
have known that, before you sat down, when you saw the title of the adventure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. That's what I was going to mention. Especially if it's something where it's coming. It's one thing if you don't know or whatever, and even that, I say, you just got to deal with it, I guess. But like, yeah, if you know going in, hey, I have a problem with these things, and that title, Queen of the Demon Web Pits or whatever, that
mhm.
it sounds like, hey, this might be something I'm not into. Maybe I should say
Yeah,
something before or whatever, or
yeah,
not do that specific thing.
yeah. You're not in for a country stroll, in that thing. It's it's meant to be a very, very dark and deadly adventure. I mean, I've played as a player through that adventure. It is no easy task. It's a slog. Um, and it's just a disconnect that a good portion of that modern player base just doesn't quite get about the hobby that they're trying to function in. So let's see. We have he's his buddy Teos did a video about changing the language in D&D because of feelings. It sounded like the most vanilla milk toast version of the game. Yeah, and that's the thing is that when you water it down, to the point that it's not even just making it child friendly, because it's removing any grittiness from it too. So it's so weird. Um, the system that WotC, I left 5e behind and embraced Shadow Dark. Yeah, and Shadow Dark is not. Um, its mechanics are gritty, but it's not. Its atmosphere isn't. You know what I'm saying? It's not as dark. I mean, I'm sure that you can add that kind of a tone and dark to it, but it's not as dark as, like, let's say, Call of Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu has that real dark feeling. It's nowhere near like a mothership or an alien or anything like that. It's not even as dark as Blade Runner is dark and very, what do they call that? That's just like a dark fantasy, sci-fi fantasy kind of thing. I was going to say something noir. I forget what they call that. The genre. It's not clicking in my head right now. But yeah, so but I love Shadow Dark. I mean, obviously, I'm running it 3 times at the next convention. I love the system. It's so much fun at a convention too. One of the friends recently described my dislike of 5e as bordering on the hate crime wall. And you ran 5e for a long time, Ducato. So, um, at least you're far more in touch with it and know the system far better than I did. I played in 5e maybe 6 times, and I think the 3 times that it was somewhat okay was the 3 times that those game masters removed almost everything that made it 5e out of it. To the point that I was like, we might as well just be playing first edition AD&D then. They removed the death saves and the short rests and all kinds of, some of the feats and everything. They just really trimmed it down to um, just like probably running more like 3 than it was running 5e.
Yeah, definitely the short rests and the death saves. I
Yeah.
mean, they bog the game down and they start to, you're almost unkillable at that point. Um, yeah, that would always drive me nuts. So,
Yeah, I know, Shark. I know a lot of people will say like the original 5e, I think, is a strong system, and I know I've been watching, some of the things that Mike Merles was saying about it, and I know that they really do jump out and say, "Oh, this is the reason for this is they wanted to make it very compartmentalized, but they Mike Merles and the others that were working on 5e should have saw the weaknesses in the system. They should have saw where um, stacking the action economy and stacking feats were going to create superheroes, and that's I think the flaw in it. The whole player superhero dynamic is just exhausting and stinks, but that was built into the system in early 5e. They didn't pick up on it, and realize that these are all things that you're going to exploit. The players will exploit, and then you're going to spend all of your time as soon as you try to modify it and change it, then you get labeled, a horrible, dungeon master because you're stripping away player agency, and the players are entitled to play these superheroes instead of playing, I mean, I've had some people say, oh, D&D is not meant to be from, you're working from a dirt, a dirt farmer to a king. No, actually, it is designed to be like that, and that's how it was really intended to be. You were supposed to start with fairly humble beginnings and then work your way up. Now, in the older editions, you were more likely to die before you got to, fifth or seventh. Once you got beyond seven, you're pretty darn powerful, in even AD&D first edition. But there's just I don't see that they did a great job with the original 5e, the core, because they had that broken in there that they didn't catch on to. And the woke politics came later. Those came in, like I said, are probably around like 17, 18, certainly by 19. And Shadow Dark is not 5e. It's not. I mean, I'd love for somebody to point out exactly where they see 5e in Shadow Dark. Um, it's
advantage, disadvantage.
but that's not just 5e. The advantage
No,
disadvantage was
I
long
know.
before 5e.
Sure, sure, sure,
You know what I'm saying? So it's like that doesn't do it. There's too
sure,
much that's in 5e that isn't in Shadow Dark that you can't say that Shadow Dark is a clone of 5e.
sure.
Yeah, and I agree with
Yeah,
this too, Paul. Like there are too many generic BX clones, and I've said that before. I've said it that I've gotten to a certain point that it was like there's just too much out there that that is just kind of the same thing, and it's why I passed up some systems. Like I passed up the Kickstarters for OSE, and I passed up Dragon Slayer because both of them they couldn't convince me that I needed these books on my shelves. You know what I'm saying? It's like I just didn't need them on my shelf. It was like I have too many. First of all, I have the originals. So I don't need something that is the Holmes edition and AD&D first edition combined. All right, because I have Holmes and I have AD&D first edition. I can homeroom that myself. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and OSE is what, first edition and third. You know, which I could do too. You know, or I have Castles and Crusades for that. You know, if I really wanted to say I want something that's somewhere in between first edition and third edition, then that's what Castles and Crusades is. You know, I don't need another game that does the same thing. I have Osric if I want to run, you know, something that is very, very similar to AD&D First Edition. You know, and I have Blue Home for Homes Edition. I have, you know, I have too many D&D Basic X, you know, BX clones out there.
I hear there's an Osric 2 coming. That's in development. I don't know exactly
I thought I have
what
Osric
that's
too.
going to
I have
be.
Osric the second printing. I don't know if
No,
they're
no, no, that's a second printing. They're actually making a second edition
a second edition.
of Osric. Now, I don't know if that means that it's going to be, you know, AD&D further cleaned up or whatever, or if it's
Or
going to be
second edition
actually like a
clone.
clone of second edition. I have no idea.
Well, I already have Foreboding
Either way,
Glory for
yeah,
that.
right. Either way, I don't think
Yeah.
that it's needed. Um,
Hey,
but
thanks a lot, Mac, for the super chat.
but yeah, on that, it's kind of funny. Yeah, you're right. There are a ton of extra game systems out there that we don't need, and I think they all come from the same thing where you read into a system that you really like, and you say, well, I like this, but I don't like, you know, I don't like this rule. So you make your own system, you know, at your own table, and you know, and then you know your buddies at the table say, hey, why don't you publish this? And then you
Yeah.
know, and I think that's why we've got, you know, 400 BX clones. You know, I think
Right.
that's why all they exist. Um, and I
Yeah,
mean, I
Chuck, you're
have,
absolutely right here. If you can't handle war, death, slavery, chomping teeth, and hungry monsters, you really shouldn't be playing this game, and that's absolutely true.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
absolutely,
I actually commented on one of those things. I was like, you know, this is the reason why. I forget if I did it on Twitter or someplace else. I put a comment about orcs, and I was like, the way I run orcs is I run orcs so phenomenally evil that no one in their right mind would not want to, you know, stomp them out as soon as they're birthed. You know what I'm saying? Like, just crush them, would not want to leave them around for a moment longer. I mean, they do
yeah,
everything in my world, from eating what they kill, you know, or you know, eating them while alive, slavery, you know, other atrocities, you know, that you can imagine, everything under the sun they are doing. And so no one in their right mind would look at that and say, oh, they're just misunderstood. You know, it's like, no, I make them over the top evil so that there could be
yeah,
no question and no remorse, with absolutely slaughtering them, all right, at every opportunity. And I would do the same thing with gnolls, right? You know, it's not bandit gnolls, it's gnolls being gnolls. And gnolls are semi-demonic. If you know anything about their lore, of, you know, how they came about, they're semi-demonic. So I would play them like that as well. So it's now, I know that other game systems older than 5e certainly had goblins. I think Eberron had goblins that weren't straight out evil across the board. And you know, and goblins have been depicted in various different ways, from goofy and kind of, you know, that way, and then like strictly evil, you know, like you see, you know, less so than hobgoblins. Generally, hobgoblins are actually far more evil than regular goblins are, but I'd still treat them like fodder. It's like you're supposed to just cut them down. They have no redeemable qualities, and that's okay. It's okay to have in your game. You need those little packets of experience points, for the
Yeah.
characters to wipe out. That's their whole purpose in the game, is to give them some kind of like a lesser challenge that they can get through in their first levels 1 through 3, and then you're virtually, once you're starting to hit those mid to high levels, you'll probably never encounter those creatures anymore, unless I throw them in as just like the slave labor of whatever other faction that the player party is dealing with. Uh, we are close to finishing my son's 5e campaign, and once that is complete, we're done with 5e. He plans to switch to CNC and run games. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the way to go. Delta Green. So, all right, Delta Green. There's your alien dark version of Cthulhu. Yeah, and so many others as well. That's just I just love putting it all in there. Um, make things really dark. I like making things really dark. What I really hate about 5e is the direction that the game is going, is that it's educating young players to be hypersensitive, overreacting Karens. Yeah. Um, Well, they're not looking to bring them into the tabletop role playing hobby anymore, though. That's the only good thing about it, is that they're looking to go strictly computer, and good riddance. Let them take most of them with them. The only thing keeping them in the tabletop role playing space is these third party creators. Just cut it loose and let it die out. It should be customizable and dialable by degrees. Yeah, as a DM sees fit. Yep. Uh,
Sure.
reactions, bonus actions, all grind the game to a halt, especially with large groups. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Amen.
yeah. I had eight
Yeah.
players in my AD&D first edition campaign. They were fighting a ancient plague dragon. All right, and with some minions on the side as well. I don't it did not go more than 12 rounds, and the almost three players died. Player characters, I said. Almost three player characters died. One did die, and of the eight. And then the entire combat in real time lasted probably about an hour and 10 minutes. All right.
Wow. Yep.
And that's a lot. That's with eight players doing actions, and 12 rounds, and it was still done in just slightly over an hour. All right, that same thing in 5e would have probably taken 2.5 hours to run with
Yeah.
with all of these different the action economy, reactions, bonus actions, and second wins, and this and that, and re-rolls, and let me throw my silvery barbs that make things have to re-roll and do all this just crazy bullshit that is just not it's just not what D&D is about. I think the superhero, and hey, how's it going, Ian? I think the superhero archetype was an intentional design intended to appeal to younger generation. Well, yeah, the video game crew.
Sure.
They, Mike Morles was not breaking. Oh, excuse me. Mike Morles was not looking to break that far away from 4E. Um, he at least looked back a little bit further than 4E. Not like Chris Perkins. Chris Perkins is completely a 4E, animal. That's what he runs in his own game. He still runs 4E. That is his mentality in game design. Oh, excuse me. And same thing with Jeremy Crawford. So they're in that space, of and I don't mind. I mean, I play Skyrim, but D&D is not supposed to be played like Skyrim, where your character dies and you just get set back a little bit and you go right back into it again. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're not supposed to have you know um, save points. In D&D, they created save points in D&D. I never liked GURPS. I love GURPS solo Conan though. That was great stuff. GURPS solo Conan. Um, but GURPS as a system as a whole, with all of those skills and a D100 system as well, it's a bit much, yeah. But GURPS Conan was awesome. Dirt farmer to murder hobo with a pile of gold. I'd like to see domain play. Don't
Yeah.
think it'll happen in D&D. Yeah, they think that the Bastion system, which they're just they're acting like they created the Bastion system and they created domain play.
Yeah.
No, that was back in AD&D First Edition too. I mean, it really was chainmail plus Dungeons and Dragons, and you're supposed to be playing that domain play, and and then you have X, you have Adventure Conqueror King, which is probably can't wait to get my hard covers, but
Yeah.
it's that's what the game is really designed for, is domain play. So you're going to have um, much better game systems for domain play than 5e. They're not capable of creating domain play. Not a good one.
Hmm. I don't know if I agree with that it was more streamlined than 3E. I don't know. Not 3E core, I don't think.
Yeah, I haven't. I've never played 3E. I've never seen it being run. To be honest with you,
Hmm.
I've never like in all the conventions that I've gone to, I've never seen anyone running anything. But I've never seen 3.5, or 4 being run at a convention.
I ran a lot of 3, then 3.5 shortly after.
Really?
We ran
Yeah,
it. We
I
ran it.
have not seen that. Now I've only been going to conventions since like 2018. Um, but I just haven't seen. Like when I look at all the conventions, I see what's being
Sure,
what's
sure.
being run. I don't see it. I don't see 3E or 3 point, maybe 3.5. I might have seen, but never 4.
Yeah, we ran it for years at my home game and a
Yeah.
buddy of mine's game, just because um, we were going to run first edition or second edition, but only me and one other buddy had the books, and there were like 5 other people. And at that time, I think the only way to get the original books, I think the reprints that they made had come out and gone already, so they were like
Mhm.
$100 for the book, and it's just ridiculous to get. That was before they were available on drive through or whatever. So I don't think they had the PDFs out there to
Yeah.
buy. So we switched to third edition because we went to you can go to Walden Books or and just buy them off the shelf. So
Yeah.
um, that's what we did. We ran that a
I don't
lot.
think
Yeah.
Walden Books is around anymore.
No, no,
No,
no,
that's long,
no,
long
not at
gone.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see. Level 10 characters are vulnerable in similar ways as they are lower levels. The whole power
Sure.
creep is contained. Yep. Um, so let's see what else we have here. The Magic School Prom and the Elven Baristas are actually officially published
Yeah.
adventures. They can't hang in this crew. Yeah, no, they can't. Um, so I originally got OSC. I'm just jumping around a little bit, checking out different things here. Originally got OSC because I almost switched to it after I stopped running 5e. Yeah, like I said, the other thing with OSC for me though was the timing of it. I mean, I just got the PDFs of the advanced OSC. I just got the PDFs at the time it was going. the Kickstarter, and I might be just a little bit off. It was either September or early October, and to be quite honest with you, um, that's when my oil bill catch up comes. Where it's like you pay a certain amount throughout the whole year, and then they hit you with $1,000 bill. In September, October. That's when my school taxes come. And then I have my regular mortgage payments and everything. And I was sitting there, and I was like, I got to write, you know, I got to write $4,000 worth of checks right now, and OSC was right at that time. So I was like, no, it's just not a good time for that. So any Kickstarters that are really hitting, and expensive Kickstarters at that, because that was well over $100 for that Kickstarter. I think it was like 120 or 140 or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was just the wrong time of the year for me. So it was kind of easy for me to say, no, I'm not going to back this thing. It might even have been more than like 140. That might have been one of the first ones that was like 160 or something like that for those books and the thing. I'd have to look back at the last Kickstarter and see. I might just be that was a couple of years ago too, so I'm kind of misremembering it. That was before COVID, so
Oof, was it?
I would say like 5 years ago. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But OSC
Yeah,
was
I,
like
I
quite a
think
number
you're
of
right.
years ago. It was before COVID, I think. So it was. I'm gonna have to look it up now. Um, let's go into
Let's see.
Kickstarter.
I got the advanced fantasy players tome here. I don't know if there's a date.
I'm gonna go into OSC
Oh,
and
this
see.
so the OSE Advanced Fantasy Players Tome says first printing November 2020.
All right, so it was
So, well,
around the same time
the Kickstarter was probably
earlier.
the year before, yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah. So that's what I thought. So yeah, my kind of I was kind of around the same time. Yeah, I was thinking it was quite a number of years ago.
so yeah, I have a problem with Kickstarters.
Yeah. No, I've been fairly lucky with Kickstarters, to be honest with you, but it's all in the timing for me. Um,
Sure.
oh, let's get rid of. Let's see. How come I can't? Let me see. I'm on the wrong thing. I was in uh, I was on YouTube trying to click on the comments here, and I forgot I'm over here. Let's see. Someone put a comment I was going to mention. Uh, I'm not going to find it now. Yeah, that's the second time that Shadow Dark is on back order, so it's selling really well.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't realize
that's at
they were
least the
that far
second
behind.
time, if not the third, that it's on back order.
Wow. Yeah, I got in on the Kickstarter with that, so I'm kind of
Yeah,
glad I
so did
did.
I. So and it came what on like December 31st. I mean, not this year, last year. It came
Yeah.
just in time for the new year. So anyway, yeah, I'll stop looking at. Yeah, let me give some giveaways here. So I am switching over, and let's see, membership gifting, and I can gift 5. So there goes some memberships, and anybody receiving a membership is is welcome to come to my Discord channel. You get the full access as a member in Discord, whether you're paid for it or not. So it doesn't matter, and that will allow you to jump in on any of my games, or well, certainly my games. I'm looking to do a lot of one shots coming up. Well, once I get past my convention next week, I'll be looking to run a lot of one shots, different game systems, whatever you want me to run. And my one shots are going to be like one or two players plus myself, or really even
Oh,
one
wow.
on ones, because I think that works really well if you're doing like mini series and things like that, because I can then flesh out the rest of the group with hirelings and that kind of stuff. And you can run a 1 hour or 2 hour session, and still get a lot out of,
Sure.
a 1 or 2 hour session if you only have one player that you're dealing with, and then the rest is, the rest of that, and just for very, very brief times. That way I can churn it and get a lot of players, that I become really familiar with. And then, when it comes time, it's kind of like a vetting process, right? I was like, hey, you know what? I'd really like for you to join my Tuesday night game or something like that. And once I get gaps in those, and those run for literally months, if not longer. So that's my group there, where it's like, once you're into my like Tuesday night game, be prepared to play for years. It's like that's kind of our thing for that group. So let's see. Yeah, Shadow Dark is definitely worth the wait. You will like that game. And it's so easy to run. The first time I ran it at a convention, and I was perfectly comfortable running it at a convention. That's how easy that game is to run. Yeah, it's going to be sometime immediately after next weekend. So I will be looking to run one shots. It's easiest for you to tell me when you can play. That way I can work around it. I'm semi-retired, so I have a lot of free time. Like my mornings are, pretty much across the board, except for Thursday mornings with my Fallout group. But my mornings are pretty much wide open. The only morning that I'm not really looking to run anything is on Monday mornings, because I leave for work at 11 o'clock on Monday mornings. But the rest of the week, I'm wide open in mornings. So if you're a good mornings Eastern time, just drop me a thing. I can run most things. Most of the things that you're going to say. It's like I'll pull anything off my shelf there if you want to run it, and do that. So let's see, but still manageable. Characters seldom made it much past 10 in my games. Much past 10, level 10, or yeah, much past level 10. Yeah, I kind of like my AD&D group. We were pushing uh 10, 11, and almost 12, and that was after 2 years and 3 months of playing weekly. 2 years and 3 months of playing weekly. And I was getting ready to shift them onto, something else, but they were becoming so powerful that it's like, all right, now I'm going to have to start throwing, you know, um, I didn't want to run some of the official AD&D modules with them, just to give them that kind of level of thing. Like I wasn't going to run Tomb of Horrors with them or something, but I
Why
needed to
not?
find things. Why not? I would, I would want to create something that was close to that, but not quite that. And it was like, oh, I got to write something now that's for a high level party, and it was a large party. It was not. It was 8 players. 8 player characters at levels 9 through, not 9, 10 through almost 12. It's
Sure.
like they would chew through Tomb of Horrors, like as long as they didn't get killed by the puzzles and things like that.
Well,
But
yeah.
anything that was combat related, they were just churning right through. So I was like, yeah, you know what, this is going to be really tough, because they were managing ancient dragons and demon lords. Bottom
Sure.
line is
Yeah.
that they were managing those combats. almost losing some players. Only one character death in that, in that phase. I think we had a total of 4 character deaths during the entire 2.5, 2 years and 3 months,
Wow.
and 29 death saves during that same time period too. So death saves were happening about 22% of the time, over that long span of time. So about 22% of the time, they were being forced to roll. What my death save was. My save was a system shock based on what level of Constitution you had minus the number of hit points below 0 you were. So let's say you had a 10 Constitution and you were brought to -4. Well, you were making a system shock roll as if your constitution was 6, not 10. All right. If you made
Right.
that,
Okay.
you survived. If you didn't, you were dead. Basically. And I didn't have the. Then it would follow the bleed out, but every single round that you lost another, you had to make another system shock check. So they became pretty intensive. Once somebody went down, they were rushing to get that person stabilized really fast. And if they didn't have healing, they were going to die. So that's like I said, and I also use second editions, the 50% in one hit rule, so that
Yeah.
was some of their, potential instant deaths as well. Um, Plus, I was using the critical hits table from Castles and Crusades, which they didn't really like too much. They were getting maimed in a lot of in a lot of instances too. Lost an eye, lost a tongue in another one. It was like they were losing all kinds of stuff. At least twice they lost eyes, and they had to get restoration spells to restore their eyes. So it was a lot of fun. So let's see. What was your Constitution score? Well, like maybe I caught that already. Maybe I mentioned it. Um, is going to be locked away for hours and hours of making up a new character. The time sink for everything involved. It's just bullshit. Yeah, yeah. It takes too long to make characters in 5e. When I made the character for AD&D First Edition the other day on my video, um, really everything combined, less than less than um, less than a half hour to make a first edition character. Less
Yeah.
than a half hour. That and I had to go to like 4 or 5 different books for resources and everything. So I was using, the player's handbook, the DMG, um, Unearthed Arcana, and the 2 survival guides to make up a character. And so using all of those different resources that you gotta flip through all those pages back and forth, you know,
Yeah.
you know, layout and organization of AD&D First Edition. That is no lie. Those were travesties of organization. But once you got it done, and once you understood what you wanted to use from that system, it is by far probably my favorite system. My favorite D&D system by far is AD&D First Edition. Um, all right, so let's see. Hello, Off Grid. Oh, where's Off Grid? There he is. Hey, Off Grid. How's it going? So Off Grid, they were able to finish up a good portions, different portions of their house today. My Fallout game. So they were able to put some good stuff together. Um, they have a fully functioning kitchen, um, and they have running water to the house, and they have electricity to the house. Still have a few more rooms to fix up. He was in my group. He's the player that had to go went back to work. So congratulations on that. Being healthy enough to go back. Good to hear. So anyway, I used the crit fumble charts out of Dragon Magazine from back in the day. Love that table. Yeah, yeah, they had some good too. What they used to call it? They called that. I forget what the title of that article was, but it
Hmm.
was cool. Yeah, I love those guides. I love both of them. To me, they added just what AD&D First Edition really needed, just to help kind of like flesh out the characters a little bit more, make them a little bit more a little bit less cookie cutter. So like all your fighters didn't have to be your fighters. Like a fighter wasn't a fighter anymore once you started adding in some of those backgrounds. And I like the fact that they weren't mechanical skills; they were just
Sure.
concept. So it's like hey, you have a background. What they call it? They didn't call it a background skill. Secondary skills were what would eventually become background skills.
Non-weapon proficiencies,
Yeah,
they
and then
call
the
them, right?
non-weapon proficiencies are what you got from the survival guides.
Yeah.
And even though they might have had it like a small mechanic here or there, you just kind of just conceptually thought about them and said, "Hey, you know what? So I made my fighter character, my example character, and rolled great for his attribute rolls. I rolled 3 16s for his attribute rolls. I was like, holy shit,
Nice.
this guy is definitely going to be a decent fighter. And then I rolled a secondary skill of shipwright. And then I was like, all right, so let me take a look at what would go well with that when I got to the non-weapon proficiencies. And in the non-weapon proficiencies, I was like, all right, we have boating, and we have rope use. I said, now I have a character concept. All right, now I have 4 weapon proficiencies, and he's a fighter, so he might double specialize. That's where so that is going to use up 3 of the 4. So I was like, all right, so what am I going to do? I'm going to make him. He's going to be on a ship, so he's going to have a cutlass. And what would be cool with rope use and all of that? Well, a belaying pin. So he's got a club. And then I was like, all right, so now I have this character here. I says, you know what? I'm not going to go with, him being double specialized in a sword because, you know, that's what most would do, right? If
Sure.
you were min
Sure.
maxing, you were like, hey, a long sword. That's the most common magic item in all of the game. Is whether it's like 60% of all swords or long swords, magic long swords. So I was like, no, he's going to be double specialized using belaying pins. I was like, just
Nice.
just such just an in character thing to do, and to me that was the perfect way to try to introduce new players, and modern players to AD&D First Edition. Was like you could do all of that role playing, in just your character concept and
Sure.
just break away from the cookie cutter aspect that you would get from min maxing in whether it's 5e or World of Warcraft. I mean, I should drive people crazy when they were like, you don't have taunt, you're a warrior and you don't have taunt. I says, no. I was like, don't worry, I'm going to attack the biggest baddest guy. I will keep an eye on the cleric and I'll keep an eye on the wizard, but I am always going to rush forward and attack. Well, you're not even a good tank. You don't carry a shield. No, I like dual weapon wielding. I said so. I'm like a DPS tank. This is my. I got kicked out of more fucking instances because I wasn't the ideal character type for them. And I was like, no, I will never take taunt and I will never take shield because I just like it's cool to be wielding 2 axes, and to be jumping in there like a berserker and just attacking everything that poses the greatest risk. I says, don't worry about me not taunting the biggest thing. I'm attacking him. He's going to direct his attacks at me too. Kicked out of so many instances for those things. And you get that same kind of mentality in 5e, where the players are like, "Oh, your character's not optimized enough." You know,
Yeah, sure.
that's what that D&D Shorts channel was all about, was optimizing character. Now, I don't know if he was supporting the optimizing or just poking fun at the optimizing, but it was, that's what that channel really did represent, was just optimizing your characters. So let's see. Unscripted nice view, great spot to come home into the wasteland. Hope Gene gets a good bead on those Goa. Yeah, that's coming soon. That's coming soon. That's the talking about Fallout. That's the bears, the tainted bears that they have to hunt down. I'm not sure, but I have to disagree. Some ordinary bandit fighter is absolutely nothing like a Roman centurion or a bold Viking or a Byzantine cataphract. Skills highlight the differences and give scope and different distinction abilities. Yeah, but the skills weren't originally with AD&D core. They came from the survival guides and to a certain extent Unearthed Arcana. So they weren't right from the get go. My funniest concept from random rolls ended up being a monk with cooking and uses silver tipped chopsticks and a +2 walk hat for a monkey climb. For like sessions, the group thought I was just a henchman. Yeah, I mean, it's just and that's the other thing. Like the greatest thing about random is that you develop character concepts just based from having random characters, random, the attributes, and if you roll really low, I've never said I'm not going to run this character because he has low stats. It's as long as he lives, right? When he dies. It's okay. Just roll another one. I named him Hop Sing. Was that wrong? Yeah, yeah. That might get you banned now. Calling him Hop Sing. What was Hop Sing from? Wasn't that from MASH? One of the kids was in. One of the kids in MASH was Hop Sing.
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure. That's what Hop Sing came from. All right, so the only thing as close to proficiency skills was the backgrounds in the DMG. Well, yeah, in first edition, they didn't call them backgrounds. They called them secondary skills and then non-weapon proficiencies in the others. Hopsing was in Bonanza. All right.
Hmm.
I know it's from something back in the 70s. I know it was somewhere there. Um, yeah, Mr. Cartwright. So let's see. And the absence of skills has always been a glaring and critical weakness of AD&D. No, you don't need them. You don't need them. You just, if a player wants to do something, you think of the appropriate attribute and have them roll against the attribute.
Sure.
That's it. You don't need a long list of skills. You just need, hey, I want to ricochet this, this rock off of two walls, and have it plump down into something. You're just going to modify it. You're going to say, well, you have to combine a dexterity roll with your strength roll, that you don't overshoot it or whatever, and just use attributes to do that kind of thing. I mean, you can assign anything to an attribute, and just make it a straight up attribute check. You got to roll below your attribute, and you're successful. So yeah, you don't need skills to actually tell you to do
Yeah,
things.
I think the problem for me anyway with skills is as soon as you give one character a skill, that instantly means that no one else can use that thing. So as soon as you have someone, as soon as you have a jump skill,
Hmm.
now no one else can jump or whatever. I mean, maybe it's not that, maybe that's an extreme, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you're saying this person specialized at jumping or whatever now, and so like now it makes it harder for everybody else, to jump or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, or they become the official jumper, and everyone else has
Sure,
to,
sure.
you know, everyone else has to wait for them to throw down a rope or something,
Yeah,
for
right.
them. It just becomes a,
Right. And
you
maybe
know,
jump's a bad example, but
yeah, yeah. No, I know what you're saying. It's like, you don't want too many people taking the same secondary skills or the same weapons proficiencies. You'd like them to kind of
sure,
spread them
sure,
out, but now you're essentially just min maxing within your group. You know what I'm saying,
sure,
and
sure.
guiding where the group is going to how the group is going to work together in an inorganic way, and so that's the other issue that I would have with that too. It's again, it's min maxing just from a different perspective, and we saw that in MMOs as well. I think I described to you the one time, Roger, that playing Age of Conan um, during beta, my group broke the game. All right,
Hmm,
because they had a system where you had skills that were on cooldown. All right,
mhm,
and so when you did your various skills and everything, they would go on cooldown, and the AI for the boss mobs, they would they would know who attacked, like what kind of character attacked them and what skills they used, and then they would they would assume, well, if this other attack which they would expect would happen would come in as well, then it would keep on adjusting and modifying and calculating their cooldowns with their abilities and everything like that. And so it became like a long slog with all of the characters, and it always assumed that
mhm.
there would be, a barbarian, a wizard, a cleric, a whatever, through the whole combination of five different characters. Well, we broke the system by attacking a boss mob with five barbarians, and it couldn't react to the same five or six skills triggering, you know, one, two, 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 and it just couldn't. And we were decimating the thing in like 3 rounds because
Sure.
it could never keep up. It kept on looking to counter what it anticipated would be the next attack. It wasn't expecting that same last
Yeah,
attack that it just got, and
right.
we fried through those things, and then we reported it. We're like, hey, we just killed this thing in 3 minutes. And it was like, wait, how? And it was like, it's like the thing is just getting like, and literally you could almost see the thing was just like stuttering. It was like trying to do
Yeah.
things and it couldn't, and it was twitching out the system. We literally broke it, you know and they were like, holy shit. And so that's why, once it got out of beta, they started making it where you couldn't bring more than two of the same into the same instance. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Right.
So they made it where you had to kind of have a more well-rounded group in that, in those instances for those boss battles, those particular boss battles.
Yeah.
And you have the same thing in tabletop role-playing games. If everyone has the same kind of abilities and everything, how would you as a game master kind of make up for that? I my AD&D group had four four healers in it. It was hard to create combat scenarios against even powerful creatures when you had two clerics, a paladin, and a druid all able to heal. It was very, very difficult to create challenges for them with that amount of healing in the party,
Sure.
and so it is a very similar thing, when you're looking at the differences between creating for, a video game experience and now what's going on at your table with that many overlap of the same skills going on. It's a kind of long-winded way to get around to your point, but there it is. So let's see how you made your living before adventuring, and the history fills itself in as you play. Yeah, that's why I have every character start at first level and as young as they possibly can be. So my fighter was 16 years old. You know, his living was working with his family as a shipwright. You know what I'm saying? It was like that was it. No other background, necessary, for him because of just 16 years old. So nothing before that. Um,
Mm. And I always enjoyed having the players have some sort of background, just for having like a non-weapon skill type of thing or something.
yeah. What's the benefit, Ian, of having characters starting, I guess, very old or just old? I mean, you'd have them start old at first level.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, but I'm saying
It's,
like,
I mean, like you get a character story of like some guy who's maybe like maybe he's been a mason all his life, right? And like he finally like retires, and then he built his home and he's got his family and everything. And then the orcs come and they invade and they like kill his family or whatever. And he's
yeah,
like, you know what? I'm too old for this shit. And he,
yeah,
grabs the longsword that's been on his mantle for 100 years or whatever. It's his great grandfather's sword, and he says, you know what? I'm gonna figure out how to use this thing and go and avenge my family or whatever.
yeah,
What's wrong with that?
yeah. And Mac actually just put it out there too. 58-year-old second level
Oh,
human
there you go. Coming
coming
out
out
of
of
retirement.
retirement
Yeah,
to help with the youngins on their quest. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So
Absolutely.
yeah, you're both on the same track.
Um, I had a character at one point back in third edition. He played I think a gnome wizard, and I don't remember what age he was. He was whatever, like he was like an elderly, whatever
Mm-hmm.
elderly was for a gnome. And he played the character as if the guy had gotten to be like a high level wizard and
Mm-hmm.
then got like dementia or something and
Yeah,
like forgot like everything and couldn't remember how to do anything, and so kind of like had to like start over at that point. I don't know. It was a weird concept, but yeah, I think
that's a
you
pretty
can
cool
make it
concept.
work.
You can actually have them like randomly remember certain spells.
Yeah,
And,
and that was basically, yeah, at the level ups when he would get more spells, he would be like, "Oh, I remember how to do this now,"
yeah,
type of thing. I remember how I used to do it, or something like that. But yeah, it was good stuff. No, so I think there's a point to be made. I understand your point definitely. Like,
yeah,
15, 16-year old, with no skill go out, um, but I think you can make it work.
yeah.
At any age, really.
If that's pretty much, yeah, the theme of the character and everything like that, I could definitely see that. I mean, that's a good example. That's why I asked the question. Yeah, give me an example of how you would work that in, and yeah, it's a pretty cool
Yeah.
concept. Diversity can include orphans and characters from massive families. Oh, my take on my game is that characters may have detailed histories and family relationships, just like in real life.
Mm,
It depends. You know what the problem is with long history, long backstories. Let's say is that players are going to assume that you are going to take details from that long history and somehow integrate it into their experience moving forward. And in some cases, they get really upset when you don't. All right, so that's number one. Number two, with some of the most egregious long backstories, they have integrated into them ideas of what they're going to achieve in the future, and like almost disregard the fact that they haven't even begun adventuring yet. It's like, oh, no, 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 you're not going to be the king. You're, you may try to become one, but don't be shocked if it doesn't happen. And so that's what, I've seen backstories where their backstory includes them starting out with like a +3 Vorpal sword. It's like, oh, no, 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 you're not getting some
Yeah.
some kind of uber magic item, at first level just because it's part of your character's backstory. It's just, so there are nightmare scenarios of, really toxic, a really toxic player at a table, bringing these ideas to the table, and I don't shy away from calling it toxic because it is. It's going to ruin the experience at your table. You know, they're very, very difficult players to deal with when you have players that are, they have their spotlight characters, that the spotlight must be on them, and that is a very difficult thing to deal with, and that's
Yeah.
why they usually don't last long at my table. So it's like, yeah, that's why I started doing first level, youngest as possible, virtually no backstory.
Sure. I agree with most of what you're saying. Obviously, the character that works, a
Mm.
Vorpal sword or whatever to their
Yeah.
backstory or whatever that, you know, um, I mean, you could maybe award them something for, trying to outsmart you, but that's about it. No, I definitely agree. Yeah, that kind of gets ridiculous, and I've had that happen before. I don't tell anybody to give me, pages and pages of backstory.
Mm.
That's it's just too much, for like a first level character. But I usually like to say like, okay, what did your character do, or like at least what did the family do, or what did your father do, or something, so
Hmm.
that they have somewhat of
Yeah.
a skill or something there. But that's all I generally allow as a
Yeah.
backstory off the go.
Yeah. Well, when I was a kid, when we
Yeah.
were playing as kids, we had no toxicity at all in our gaming. I mean, we were 11, 12 years old when we started. It was like we never had issues. We never had issues with our characters dying. We never had issues with our DM that says there's no resurrection in the game world. The gods would never allow mortals to have the ability of life, life and death, and life over death, or whatever. Um, there's just no, there's just none of that. And then, the one time one of our players, I'll never forget, Steve was like, "Oh, this is my main character. I've been playing him for 6 years or something like that. Just, just something, an artifact that we can go on an adventure for, a scroll. Just give me one opportunity to bring my character back with a resurrection spell." Freaking DM put a scroll of resurrection into Tomb of Horrors. All right. We lost five player characters going into it. Luckily, he told us, like, listen, do not bring your mainline characters into this. Make up whole new characters and everything. We'll connect them, into, if they survive, we'll connect them into the rest of the party in some way. And went in, all five killed. Then we're like, all right, we'll use our main characters in there. We went in with five. Three of us left. The other two died in there. We're like, nope, we're not doing that anymore. And then that was probably the only adventure that we did not complete. And we're like, nope, we're not doing it anymore. Lost too many characters going in. And we weren't going to risk our mainline characters anymore trying to get through that thing. And he was perfectly fine with setting it aside. And all right, we never completed that adventure. All right, no same group of characters had gone through other, like I said, Demon Queen of the Web Pits. We ran right through the whole thing. We did all of the, that whole series of adventures. We did all of the, the Against the Giants. We did We did Ravenloft. Our characters survived Ravenloft. We lost a couple levels, but we survived Ravenloft. Um, yeah, that was the only adventure that we did not complete. And rightly so. I mean, it was that adventure you were really meant to complete. I think it was meant to really rough up your characters, high level characters as well. Let's see. Get woke, go broke. GW and WotC are a hot mess these days. Yeah, I never really followed. I never really followed game designers. Yeah, not game design. I never really followed. What the hell is GW? It's I know it's Warhammer. I'm Games Workshop. I was going to say the other one. Games Workshop. I never I looked at Warhammer. My DM back in the early '80s, or maybe in mid '80s, had Warhammer. I liked the book. I liked the pictures and everything in it. I didn't like the game system. The game system just struck me as being a miniatures game. And that's just how it struck me in my 15-year-old mind when I was looking at it. It was like, nah, this is miniatures, and I really didn't like miniatures games. So, but I know, I mean, they're all about miniatures, and they're really expensive on top of that, and so they're doing a lot of nonsense with their lore and stuff, buckling to the crowd. Hey, thanks a lot, Off Grid. So, super chat 5A. Would you allow a player to give their character a flippant name like Bruce Wayne or Brad Pitt? Um, I'm against that thing. I get kind of um I'm more serious than that, so I don't like games that or I don't like running games where the characters have stupid names or just disconnected names from what they should be playing. So, how do you think about what do you think about that, Roger?
I it doesn't bother me that much. I mean, I have a couple players that'll do it, that'll come up with like some weird names. Um and like one of my players now, he's playing a fighter, and it's he used Brock Lesnar as
Yeah.
like a family name, or his
Yeah, yeah,
brother
yeah.
or something like that. And like that character died. And so now there's like another one, and there was like a junior and like a third, and then like the cousin, and because he's the frontline fighter, and so like he just just a series of bad moves and stuff. He got his character died
Mm,
like 3 or 4 times, and it's just bad. Um, but and I don't know, he plays the character seriously enough,
mhm.
and it's kind of like a just like an in-game joke type of thing, and I think
Mm.
it's fine. I don't, I think if you're gonna like be like hammy about it or whatever, and and take away from the seriousness of the game. I mean, it is a game after all, right? But um, I think it's fine. So like I
Yeah,
said, so long as like I run a pretty serious game, but we joke around and whatnot, and so long as it's not like too goofy or out there, like it doesn't it doesn't bother me.
yeah.
Like Bruce Wayne or something. Like
Yeah.
if you've got a rogue or thief, I guess, right, in my game, Bruce Wayne, and he wears like a black cloak and like sneaks around and like does
Mm.
stuff. Like he's gonna end up getting called like Bruce the Bandit or something, right? Like or
Yeah,
something. I mean, I don't know. I don't think the name matters that much, but that's a personal, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. I even had a problem with that in MMOs. It's like, if they're disconnected, like if
Yeah,
don't play Luke Skywalker in World of Warcraft, let's say. Even though I think they pretty much banned any named
sure, sure.
property names.
There
But
were there were
you
ways
know what I'm
around that.
saying, like.
Yeah,
But if we're disconnected from the genre, or the theme of the game, it would annoy me, and I'd be like, you know what, I don't
yeah,
want to deal with that. I mean, I couldn't get past the first couple of paragraphs of the Sword of Shannara because of Flick Olmsford. That name just drove me nuts. I was like, what a stupid ass name. And I never picked up the book again. It was like, I literally
Yeah,
threw it out. I was like, no, I can't read this
I
shit.
guess I guess I don't have as much of a problem with it
Yeah.
as you do.
Yeah. For
I
some
don't
reason,
know.
I had a problem with that. And I was like, so that's a very early age. And I was like, nope, I like the characters to have, you know, um, cool names and names that are appropriate for the theme that they're in. Now, my players, like I had um, one of my players. He actually comes up with kind of interesting names. So there was it was Breeze, all right, but it was more of a
Okay.
nickname. It wasn't his real name, so it was a nickname for Breeze. And then his monk was Seven, all right. And like the
Okay.
numerical seven, and he had some kind of like a story behind it that he was still trying to decipher. So it was part of his character's,
Sure.
growth thing to figure out why that was the only name he remembered he was called by, was seven. So, and this was before, um, this was before like 11 in in Stranger
Sure.
Things,
Sure.
kind of thing. So I was okay with it, because just the way he was kind of playing it and the fact that his character still didn't know why he was called that, and so it became a little bit more interesting, and it's not so far fetched. But again, like if he was, wanted to be Skywalker, I was like, no, why would they wouldn't even have that? What I'm saying, it's like that
Yeah.
wouldn't fit. Um,
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I run a pretty serious game, and I don't know. Yeah. It never really bothered me. It works out so long as the person's playing like a like playing the character seriously
yeah,
in the campaign world. Like I don't hold it against them.
yeah.
Like
Well,
it's whatever.
like Robbie says here, but that's very Gygaxian, right? Just spelling names backwards and everything. I mean, that's where
Yeah,
you get
sure.
Sajig from, you know. So yeah, that's very appropriate for Dungeons and Dragons is backwards names. So um,
So, but Luke, like think about it though. Luke Skywalker, like what's wrong with that name? Like, I understand that it's the guy from Star Wars, right? Like, I'm
right.
not like, but
That's just
like
why that's why I have a problem with it.
Luke, yeah, but Luke is a fine name, right? Luke is
Yeah,
somebody
Luke would be
would be
fine.
Luke something else, right? And Skywalker, I mean, that's like a fantasy based name, right?
Yeah,
Skywalker. So what's wrong with a
I
character
don't
named
know. It
Luke
would just annoy
Skywalker?
me. It would
It
just
just so
annoy
happens
me.
to be the same name of another
Yeah,
guy that existed a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. That's your only problem with it. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, it's just a pet peeve, right? So it's just a pet peeve.
yeah.
I like
All right.
names to make more sense, I guess.
All right. So nothing crazy if I'm ever in one of your games.
Yeah, yeah. So Shaniqua, get my
Can't be Sook Lightwalker or something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that. That
yeah.
won't fly.
Or like the Johnny Cash song, right? A man named Sue.
Yeah, man. Sue. Yeah. Um, yeah. I don't know. It's just
Yeah, if you play one of my games, don't come with a crazy name.
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
like I said, if you can make it make sense, then fine. But
Yeah, no, and I'm not that
yeah,
guy. I
yeah.
try and find
Oh,
like an
you're one of
in-world
those
name
guys.
or
You're that
something.
guy.
Um, but yeah, but like I don't people do it and like,
Mm.
look, man, if you gotta name your character Luke Skywalker
Mm.
and that makes you get a laugh out of it and you're gonna have fun in the game, like I don't it doesn't bother me, you know. So it is what it is.
Let's see. That summons an image in everybody's head every time it said annoying. Um, Okay. So so let's see. Some other things I wanted to. We'll get back to it. So basically, just free. And hey, if anybody else wants to jump in, you're welcome to. I will put the invite out there again. Gonna probably run just another like half hour or so. So, how do you DMs handle level training for
Ooh.
characters? How long does it take? You want to take that one first, Roger?
Uh, Pass. No, so, yeah, so I've generally tried in the past, I've hand waved it, and so that's kind of what I ended up doing now, with my current game because, I'm running everything in one-to-one time.
Hmm.
So so if somebody's out for like a couple weeks or like a week per level, or no,
Hmm.
I think it's up to 4 weeks, I think, right, in
Yeah.
AD&D, depending on how well you played your character. That would mean that that character can't participate for 4 weeks in real time. So
Right.
I don't know. So I really don't use it. They kind of pay for it, in the way that I handle with XP. I allow my characters to buy XP, so
Hmm.
that's kind of them paying for that sort of thing. But I understand the time thing, but it just doesn't work in my game.
Right. Um, to be honest with you, I used it in AD&D First Edition during that campaign, and I was initially using the quality ratings, for
Hmm.
their experience
Yeah,
point modifiers, and I was using
yeah,
that, and um, I was using the training time, so they needed essentially a week minus their intelligence modifier. All right, so if they had an intelligence modifier, they can actually train a lot faster. You know,
hmm,
um, so I was doing that, and eventually, I would say probably about 16 weeks in, my players stopped doing stupid things, and their ratings were always pretty much averaging out to, a good balance, to the point where
hmm.
it's like, all right, so I stopped keeping track of that, and I just started
Sure,
assuming they were going to, because they literally did just stop making, like silly errors, and things like
sure,
that. So they were thinking about what they were about to do. They were doing this and everything. And I was like, all right, perfect. I think it worked. Like, now they were very experienced players too. I mean, none of my players were under, probably under 35, and they all were playing for
sure,
at least 20 years. So they were all really experienced players, and they were just a phenomenal group. To have been lucky enough, to bring them in. Like, I started with 12, it came down to 10, it ran for a couple weeks at 10, and then it finally came down to 8, and it lasted for 2 years at 8. And so they I didn't need to do that anymore with them, like think about the rating
sure,
of their role play and their actions and all of that stuff. And so then their training, I had them stop having to get a trainer and to train for that whole week's worth of time, once they hit level 5, because at level 5, that's when you start really picking up your henchmen, and I was like, you don't need training when
sure,
you get to level 5. And then they no longer had to train at all once they hit level 9. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you hit your hit point, I
sure.
mean your experience points to go to level 10, you just did. All right, you're already a master of what you're doing. You're titled, character.
Yeah,
You don't need that kind of training from anybody else. Plus, how many level 11 characters are you going to encounter? If you're a level 9, because you had to be at
sure.
least 2
Yeah,
levels higher than what you did. So it kind of tapered off over time. And I think that's a great way to do it, because it's it's character development over time, and it
yeah,
gets the players thinking about, hey, if I no longer need training from somebody else, I should be training somebody else, and that's where the henchmen started
Mhm.
coming in, and then we never got, I was slowly approaching that domain kind of play that we were eventually going
Sure.
to get to. And so I started building that into the concepts and into their mindsets as they were playing along, right from like level one through, that level 7 or 8 or so. That's when it really started clicking
Mhm.
in. It was like, hey, you know what? This was by design that it kind of happened, and it was really because they bought into it without really knowing that they were buying into it either. It just
Sure.
happened
Sure.
by, you know, because it just made sense. So, similar to one time, because when that big whole thing had been like blowing up, across our, at least across my sphere of people that I
Mhm.
follow and watch and all of that. And the OSR was starting, a couple of years back, they were really starting to come out and talk about that. And that's when I was running that campaign. And they were like, well, if you're not running one-to-one time. And I sat there and I was thinking, and we were probably about like 80 weeks in to our campaign. And I was looking at like the characters and where they were and what they were doing during that time, and the characters were probably about 83 weeks of adventuring in that 80 weeks time, or vice versa, or something
Mhm.
like that. We were almost one to one,
Yeah.
um just by accident, or
Sure.
just by,
Mhm.
organically, without having to, I mean, sometimes I might have to fast forward them a little bit, to catch up. Like if we missed a week or something like that, we would,
Mhm.
but I wasn't like, if I was stopping them in the middle of a dungeon, they're not sitting in the dungeon for 5 days, or seven
Right.
days. We would pick up where we left off, and it really did make a difference, overall. So that whole thing, like with the one-to-one time, like I understand where they're coming from, where they think that is a that is the why I wouldn't call it the ideal way, but they certainly do believe that's the ideal way or the only way. Um,
Yeah.
you know, I just don't see the benefit in doing that.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I switched to it. I love it. I've got players that are on the fence about it, and man, it just it, it makes it so that there is downtime. The players, they at the end of the session, they got to be back in town. They always
Mm-hmm.
go out for like less than a week. They always have like a few days left. They always have like some downtime stuff that they want to work on and that they're doing. It makes it so that you're not like in the middle of a dungeon or something, and then the next week, you know, players can't show up, or something comes up or whatever, they can't make it, and then you either have to disappear them from the group or NPC them for the session, and I mean, you don't have any of those issues. Not that they're major issues,
Mm-hmm.
um, but and then and like there's a set time, and it allows me to do stuff um, like if I wanted to on the side with other groups and other people, and there's a definite time thing there where I can say, hey, I can have somebody running 400 orcs, on the other
Mm-hmm.
side of the continent or something, and they can have this thing planned out, and they could say, hey, I want to do this, this, and this, and the time is interlinked, so I know exactly when everything's happening. You know, um, it works out great for that. Weather,
Yeah.
I mean, I just look outside and that's what the weather is. I just use my local climate as
I
the
do that all the
temperature and
time too.
stuff. It's so it's amazing. I don't have to keep track of like stuff like that. I don't have to keep track of a special calendar. I just have a regular calendar that I keep track of notes and stuff on. I mean, it really. I know I'm starting to sound like I'm a bro, right? But like I'm not, but the one-to-one time thing, I've tried it. I absolutely love it. It makes it definitely a lot easier to keep track of things.
That's
For
cool.
me anyway.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody. Like I said about, some of my players I think are really into it. And they're starting to realize how they can kind of use it to their advantage. And Some are kind of like, ah, well, whatever, it's fine, So that's where I am with that,
Yeah, I like doing stuff that is like off, like off time activities that they're doing. You know,
Yeah.
that's, that's something that I do actually like. I was like, well, what are you planning on doing? Like my AD&D group, they had acquired a copper mine, and
Hmm.
they had their henchmen at that point. They had some of their trainees at that point, and they were starting to populate Queskatan, which they took over that stronghold as their own home base, and then they had a small chateau inside a local city, like a small city nearby place, and then they had that copper mine, and they were basically kind of managing that while they were. And their henchmen were managing all of that while they were out adventuring, and then they would come back, and it was like, hey, you have collectively amongst the eight of you, you have another 8,000 gold pieces from, trading and, what was mined from the copper mine in the last 6 months. And then they go, oh, how are we going to do this? We need to buy some more, hire more here and there and whatnot. So,
Hmm.
but like I said, for whatever reason, we were probably 95% lined up with one-to-one time, with that,
Yeah,
so
sure.
there was never really an issue. Like sometimes we would, and that's why I say like we flex the time during gameplay. So it's like, all right, well, you need 7 days to train, you need 10 days to train, or whatever it was, and so you're all going to spend 10 days, in this town. And
Sure.
then what are you doing during the 10 days? What are you doing? Now, that would all take one session. So it would only take 1 week to accomplish 10 days of game
Hmm.
time,
Hmm.
and that's what I was talking about. Like when I you know, got into arguments with some of the people that were, with the Bro OSR and everything like that. Oh well, you're supposed to stop, and there, you can't start up again, for 10 days. Then, if you're spending the 10 days here, then you can't play again for ten
Yeah.
days. It's like, no, my real life schedule is my real life schedule. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
everybody has a schedule,
And
and
and if something like that happens, like in my game, if they go out for 10 days, like we meet every Sunday, right? So like if they go
Mhm.
out from Sunday and then they're gone until they're gone 10 days, right? So like Wednesday they come back and then we meet on Sunday again. Technically, as of that date, like they're still out, you know. But all I'll do is play, like we'll just move ahead to that
Yeah, you
day
fast forward them
and
to.
then play that, and then usually what happens is that'll be something shorter that's only a few days. So
Mhm,
then we'll get to, like, say, Saturday, and then next Sunday when we start up again, you know they'll have had one day for healing and downtime
mhm.
activities, that they'll message me or whatever and say, hey, I want to do this in this day, or or whatever. So it generally works out. I don't um generally allow them to go out like more than that, like to the 2 week point.
Right.
But obviously, like next week is Page, right? So
Mhm,
they know that I'm going to be gone and then I'm not going to run, so they won't see me for 2 weeks. So what'll happen this coming Sunday is they're planning on doing something that they know is going to take them out a little bit further,
right,
someplace that's further to get to, so that this way they can go and they can do a 2 week thing, so it's kind of planned,
right.
you know, and they'll be back. And I mean, hey, you do you. I'm not gonna say,
Yeah.
hey, this is the
It's like,
this is the way to do it, and this is the only way to do it. I found that it does actually work great for me, and it does solve some
right.
problems. Um,
Um,
yeah, Ian.
by the way, what time are you getting? What time are you going to Page? You're going to be there on Thursday.
Yeah, we'll be there Thursday. We've got a game Thursday night with Jay Scott, Lord
Okay.
Gusumba. And so I think we're heading out. 11 maybe, and then that means we'll be 3 or 4 o'clock. We'll be getting into
At the
town.
hotel, yeah.
So yeah, and we're staying at the Hampton.
Oh,
The
you're at a
Hilton.
different place than
The
the.
Hilton is where the games are, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, we're at the hotel next to that one.
Oh, okay.
It's a Hampton. It's next door. Um, I think they were a little bit cheaper and have the free breakfast. I don't remember seeing that on the Hilton. Maybe they have that too, but
No, the Hilton
um,
doesn't have the free breakfast.
the Hilton doesn't have a free breakfast, so
It's like
that's why we're staying at the
$16 or
Hampton.
something like that for the whole spread, but it's a great breakfast.
Yeah,
You know, some
yeah,
Hiltons
sure,
they are free,
yeah,
but
right.
that
So
particular one is not.
I generally tend to try and stay at the ones with the free
Yeah.
breakfast. I mean the
Um.
waffle machines are where it's at.
Yeah.
But if you know, you know. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. So I'm
yeah,
planning on getting there. I'm going to go to Runehammer's
yeah.
store
Hey, that's right here. See,
um,
I got the.
at 12. Yeah. So I'm looking to get there at 12 o'clock. Which means I probably have to leave my house around like 8:30.
It's a
Get
great
there at
little
12
store.
o'clock. Yeah, so I'm going to go there. I'll probably end up buying that shirt because I'm looking to get some more,
Yep,
you
yep.
know, some more stuff.
I spent a
Um,
lot of money there too. Yeah, it was
yeah,
good.
so I'm going to definitely go there, and then I will go to, and then I'm looking to get to the hotel probably around like one ish or something like that. I'm
Yeah,
hoping to be able to get an early check in, but I'll hang out.
yeah,
You know,
right.
hopefully I'm in the room by 3. you know but I'll hang out in the lobby area, whatever. That's where they have they have their little
Yeah,
counter there, and you can get food right there and everything. Although we
yeah.
do have the meal. um we do have the meal at like 7. So
Hmm.
if I do anything there, I'll probably just have some coffee and just chill out there until I get into my room. And I
Yeah,
just realized I should bring my little portable coffee maker with me too,
yeah.
because
It's I
that's
I
the other thing.
usually do
Sometimes
that.
they don't have, a great coffee maker.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll
Or there's a
probably bring
ton of
my
people using it.
little
Yeah,
portable K cup coffee maker and some milk too. Yeah, that's another thing I gotta pack and make sure
yeah,
I have enough stuff for uh, my own stay in the room. But yeah, so I'm definitely gonna, obviously definitely
yeah,
see you there. So
yeah.
that'll be a
I'll
lot of
I'll
fun.
be there. Yeah, I'll be there walking around.
Yeah,
We'll probably be walking around the Hilton at
yeah,
some point Thursday a little bit early before our
yeah.
game, so we'll probably see you then. Um,
So Ian's
yeah,
question,
Ian.
Ian, I have tried West Marches games before. I'm not a big fan of it because once again, the way that I was interpreting that you run it, you have to go out and then return back, or get to some place where you can stay over the night. It had to be a safe space, so you couldn't
Hmm.
stop in the wilderness and camp overnight and everything. You always had to
Correct.
go, you know, a couple hexes out and then a couple hexes right back again. If you didn't discover another place that you could travel to and stay overnight in safety, then you know I don't know what you were supposed to do. You're supposed to, I guess you're just screwed, whatever. But I was like, that's the point that I didn't like about it, because then it felt like, well, then you as a game master, you're going to have to set up where there's a small village or whatever every 2 hexes away. Otherwise, it'll never expand out into the
Mm.
place. I just didn't like the randomness of it, and having to create different things like on the fly like that. You had no I mean, we're just using a complete hex map, the just like empty hexes, and then having to fill in, what is actually there and doing. I wasn't a big fan of it, and at the same time, I was trying to do the one-to-one time at the same time as that and
Sure.
everything. And with a small group of players, it wasn't working well, you know. So I just was not a big fan of it.
So this is pretty much what I'm doing. I'm
Hmm.
not a huge fan of the West Marches name. I know that Ben Robbins kind of came up with that, I believe. Um, but I really think that that's the way D&D was played earlier,
Oh
than
yeah.
that anyway. So I but regardless of that, but yeah, it's basically how I play.
Hmm.
That the player's going to be back at the end of town and back in town or in safe space, which really works because, like I said, then you don't have a problem where the following week
Hmm.
everybody's in the jungle and the following week,
Yeah.
two players can't make it or something else or what. So, I mean, it works out really great that everybody's back in town. And then it's like, okay, what characters do you guys want to, go out with? And they make a decision, or usually online on Discord, they figure out, hey, this is what we want to do. And then they can go out and they can do the thing and then they can come back. And then, like, so in the meantime, they have like they found a silver mine that was
Hmm.
that a bunch of orcs were living in, right? So they like killed all the orcs and they like have hirelings that are kind of there like guarding it. And they cleared that hex, so it's like safe. So they went down in the
Right.
mine and they're working on clearing that out. But now the mine, that's like a safe that's like
Right.
a safe place. So that's like a few hexes out, and they've realized, oh, this saves us a day. So there's
Hmm.
times where they'll travel out to there, and for the most part, because the hexes between town and the
Hmm.
mine they've is patrolled now. So now that area they can, for the most part, travel freely, to and from. So during
Right.
downtime, characters can move from one safe space to another, and then they're all here at the mine, and now they can all leave from there
And go
and
out
go
and
from
then
there.
come back to the mine if they
You're
need
right.
to, or
And
yeah.
then and then now they're getting in. They're about sixth, seventh level, and so they're gonna have followers soon.
Hmm.
So they're gonna have to build strongholds and everything else, and then their characters will get kind of like NPC'd at a certain point, right? And then their followers would be the new characters, right? That end up going out, but they'll have to make new safe spaces, right? So fighters got to build a keep somewhere. He's got to build a castle. So that's and they're going to strategically put that somewhere where, hey, we can get here, and then that's another safe town. I mean, I think it works great. I mean, it's a personal thing.
Hmm.
I get it, but
Yeah.
um, so
Yeah,
yeah,
I typically, to answer this question, Ian, I have players focus on one character. Um, so not running different characters and such. And I pretty much I don't have that much overlap between my different games either. So, like I said, I don't have the same players in my Fallout as I do in my CNC. And none of my players are playing in the other CNC game that I play on Fridays. So it's like, so my groups are kind of separate. Um, I've run some other games with or other game systems where some of my players from the others came into them, but they've never all been they've never all been together in a different game while I'm running the one. So like, my 8 players don't follow me. I'm down to 6 now. So my 6 players in my Castles and Crusades don't play in my Shadow Dark games, or they're not playing in my Fallout games and everything. So I don't have, I have probably about 12 players right now, and they're not, there's almost no mixing of, the 3 groups per se, or not really that much of a mixing between the 3 groups. Off Grid was my only player that was playing in 2 different games that I was running. He was in my Shadow Dark and then in my Fallout. Um, and then I was going to bring him over into my Castles and Crusades game when it was still 8 players. And I was like, I really, certainly would have brought him over into it. But, to go back up to 9 players when I, was like, oh, I'm finally back down to 8. And it was kind of nice to be down to 8. Now it's 6. So it's actually even a little bit better at 6. But yeah, my days of having, you know, 8 or more players in one set, in one game is, that's behind me. I've done it, been there, did it for a long time, but don't want to do it anymore. I think it takes too much out. Like Our Fallout is only 4 players, now 3, so I need a player. So if anybody's available, Thursdays at 12 noon to about 2:30 Eastern time, there's a slot open. I'll start advertising that. Let's see, anything else, but that's where I stand. I'm assuming that you, Roger, you let them have more than one character because you're doing,
I
yeah,
I let them have more than one
yeah,
character, and all of them have one like primary character, and
hmm,
those are the like the level 6, 7, characters
yeah.
there, and then they all have some side characters um that have other, that are lower level. Um but yeah, they all have the main character, and that's what they usually come out with. But every once in a while they'll switch it up, and you know, things will go from there.
Yeah,
But
we'll jump out of gaming for a second, and Shark loves Belgian
Belgian
waffles.
waffles.
Lots of butter and covered warm maple syrup.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's see. Flapjacks. All right. Yeah, we'll talk about food. Yep. Maybe if I played in a one-to-one West Marches, I would like it more than running it. Um, I just don't
Well,
find
mine's in
I have
person.
very few opportunities to actually play anything. So it's like,
Mine's mine's an in-person game in
yeah.
upstate New York. You're welcome to come up anytime you
Well,
want.
you're 3 hours away from me, so it's like it's a long schlep. But we'll see at your con. Maybe I'll get some time. Actually, I'm running 3 games at your con, so I don't think I'll have that much time to actually play in anything. Or maybe I have room to play in one thing. I'm not sure yet. I have to look at your schedule and see what's up there.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. So when was that you're going to start posting things? That's not until April,
they're
right?
they're posted. They're not open yet for sign up.
Oh, but they're posted. Oh,
They're
so they're
they
so I
are
can take a look at that.
m-
All right,
some of
I'll
them
have,
are posted. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, some of them are posted.
I may have a backlog of things I need to approve. I'm not sure yet, but
Okay,
I check that every couple days or so.
yeah.
But yeah, there are the events are listed, and I believe it is the last Saturday in March
Hmm.
at noon is when it's going to open up for the
Okay.
VIP badge holders, and then the
Hmm.
following Saturday for at noon for everybody else.
Okay.
So, but
All right.
yeah, it's something like that. I think it's like March 29th and April 6th or
Hmm.
something like that. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, let me get caught up to some of these things. Let's see, because they don't rely on everybody getting together at once, just showrunner and one player at a time. All right, yeah, yeah. I'm sure that's why I'm looking to do the GM+1 thing. Because it's you don't need a lot of time, and you play whenever you can show up, kind of thing. So, and I'm looking to do those very episodic because you can with just one player. It's very easy to do these little brief episode type things, and and start and finish all in 2 hours is a great thing because it'll allow me to play with that many more people and run that many more different systems as well. So I'm kind of excited about that. I'm looking to get that started, um, probably the end of January, or certainly by February when I have like the February break and I'm off for a week. I'm looking to do a lot of shit during that week. Plus, I have some writing to do. I have to write my Deadlands adventure. Really convert my. I have to convert a Robert E. Howard story, a Weird West story, into Deadlands, and then get that ready to run in April. I was listening for a little. Then boom, I'm here. Oh, hey Cal, how's it going? Um, and let's see. Well, we're around 2 hours and 30 minutes. At about 10 o'clock. So I'm from a different cultures, each with their own detailed pagan religions, then several different monotheistic religions that operate in the world as well. Um,
Hmm.
Now, I actually did something along this lines with Mifrog. All right, and when so the whole story behind Mifrog is that you have the two different aspects of the religion there. You have the Seder and you have the Asutru, and one is more traditional, and the other one is more of a religious based kind of thing. So it's like, and when I was looking at the lore of that game system, and it's going to relate to what Shark is saying here with the pagan religions and monotheism, and I thought that where Varg should have taken the lore of the game was that the rise of civilization, all right, was the real um, cataclysmic thing that he should have been doing. I'm using Robert E. Howard's view of civilization and how barbarism was superior to civilization because civilization is a corrupting thing, and the introduction of monotheism into the pagan culture, which is basically like the Roman Empire conquering, the Nordic countries and displacing, the pagan religions, basically December 25thing everything, is basically, co-opting their culture. And I was like, this is what the cataclysm really should have been, was that true clash between, the rise of civilization. You're coming out of basically the Iron Age, and you're moving into that next phase. You're moving into the Middle Age kind of time period. And I was like, that's the true struggle that you should have done this to, instead of, like, I don't know if you're familiar at all with his world lore and everything for that game system, but he basically did like the cataclysm, the kitchen sink cataclysm was like, it was all kinds of whole bunch of shit going on. And I was like, you had it right there. You had the true thing was, the moving to kingdoms, the moving to, so coming out of the clan culture and moving into the kingdoms. You had the, you know, polytheism being pushed aside for monotheism. And it was a monotheism coming from outside of the region to begin with. So it was an alien monotheism that was being introduced. And that was that to me was the next phase in what the campaign should have been going in. um, and so I like that theme of having that clash between you know uh, tribalism and civilization, the clash between a clannish tribal, moving to kingdom kind of thing, and the clash between paganism and monotheism, as being another, catalyst for kind of creating a campaign idea around it. So, yeah, there's all kinds of different things that you can build campaigns around and get those kinds of tones, out there. And I know some people might say, "Oh, aren't you including real world politics into your game?" No, these are themes. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, we're not actually calling them the Romans and then this and that, or what. Are you just taking the themes of those concepts and introducing them? So that's kind of where I kind of lay on that with, besides religious conflicts between different religions, also I have lots of racism and tribal hatreds. Then there's primary conflict between tribal societies and main faith, you know, faithful to the old ways. And so, yeah, and that's pretty much what I was talking about. So I kind of do the same thing, embracing sedentary agriculture and civilized cultures and the way of life. Yep. um, Now, again, that's not introducing real world politics. That's just introducing the themes of, just the way societies kind of work, right? I mean, you can't
Sure.
separate it from, you can't separate the themes from, the reality. You can't, just because you're in a fantasy thing, there has to be some, um, there has to be some grounding in realities that, that's what they call verisimilitude or whatever. I can never say that word right, but it's what makes the world feel real, is that it has to have some kind of a connection to things that are probable to happen, and you can only draw upon the real world in order to do that. So it's anyone struggling for writing ideas with story hitches can pick up a history book. um,
Yeah.
yeah, as just for the basic themes, yes. I think it's important for campaigns to have all kinds of dynamic conflicts going, struggles of supremacy, uh, struggles for supremacy, women, resources, animals, as well as land. Struggles for what struggles for women? What do you mean by that? um, struggles for women and animals as well as land. I mean, I don't even understand animals either. So what? I understand supremacy. There's no conflict. We need those things.
Well, you fight over the cows,
Yeah,
You got,
it's,
that's where you get the milk and the beef from, somebody the neighbor, the neighboring tribe, they've got,
I guess I mean,
breed
like, yeah,
cows.
like if you're struggling over the natural resource of an animal source, yeah, that I get.
I think that's what he's getting, just
Yeah,
general,
yeah.
resources in general.
Okay. So anyway, so let's try to sling back in the last couple minutes to the original. Um, Fertile women are a commodity in the olden days. They are resources. Yeah, I guess so. It's like I've never included that in D&D though. That's something that never bothered doing. Or many wives. Yeah, having many wives. Um, yeah, I've never included that kind of an aspect into the game. Um, but I guess you could. Yeah, fighting over women. Mates booty young, fertile women, herds of animals, good sheep, cattle, horses. Yeah, yeah. Or steel, right? The riddle of steel. He's going to go around, and just hoarding up steel wherever you could find it. So fighting for a weapon. I haven't done that either. I haven't actually had a thing where the theme was built around just going around and plundering the weapons from other places so that you can then build your army, your army up and everything. Being at that kind of level of it, that might actually be a pretty interesting thing too. To steal from Folsa Doom. In my early days, I saw he steal. Go into that whole thing. Um, but anyway, all right. So yeah, we hit a lot of different topics, and we started off with just talking about a few things about colonialism and everything. I think that our last theme over here, or anti-colonialism, I should say, and our last couple themes here talking about conflicts. I mean, all of those conflicts you're going to say are colonial conflicts, right? You're talking about taking the resources from one civilization to another, and there's no way to separate that from humankind. It goes back to it far exceeds the colonial era. Really, the whole idea of that kind of conflict goes back to the earliest, pre-recorded history. Probably goes back to even earlier than that. To the as soon as you had different types of hominids, fighting over territory or resources or whatnot. So, beginning of time. Can I imagine one-to-one timing Conan and the Wheel of Pain? The Tree of Woe, right? Put him on the Tree of Woe. How long was he on that? How long was he on that thing? Probably only a couple of days, actually. But anyway, all right, Roger. Well, thanks a lot for joining in, and everyone else. Thanks for putting the comments in there and seeing what seeing what came out. A lot of interesting conversations and some great questions. Picking our mind on various types of one-to-one timing and west marches and playing
Yeah,
multiple characters and to finish off with different types of conflicts and such. So that's all good good food for thought. As far as and different types of campaigns and such, which
sure.
this brought us into as well. So yeah, cows are weapons. Exactly.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks. So yeah. I mean, I'm going to see you at Page. So
Yeah,
and we are. I would still be in my first game right now, running my first game. So I would be running at this moment. I would be running the Slumbering City from Tom Wilson, and probably looking to wrap it up in about 40 minutes from now. I think that game runs from like 8 to 11. Thankfully, it's in the hotel, so I'll be right there,
yeah,
and I already have my specific room book too, so I already know what room I'm going to be in, and
nice.
yeah, called ahead of me before.
I don't know if
I
they
was
let
like,
me pick my
because
room
in
yet.
that hotel, the last time I was there, they only had one elevator working at the time. You
Oh
know,
no,
so I asked. I was like, "Give me ground floor. I want something on the first floor. I don't care
really?
how far it is." So I got a room on the ground floor. I'm like, awesome. So that's a thing I always do now. When I book, I ask for ground floor.
I'm like a floor 3 or 4 kinda guy. That's where
Yeah,
I'm at. I'm at,
yeah,
like, yeah, 3 or 4 because the ground floor is just, like, way too busy. There's too many people usually walking in and out for me,
yeah,
and, like, I wanna be higher up, but I don't wanna be too high where it takes 20 minutes to come down the elevator, so,
yeah.
like, I don't know. So
Yeah,
I'm just
if
like,
I'm
yeah,
on like
3
the
or
second
4.
or third or fourth floor, whatever, if I'm on any other floor, I want the room right next to the elevator.
Yeah,
I don't want to have to
yeah,
walk around a long hallway and then make a turn or anything like that. And that's just like that's like the longest freaking walk, on the planet
yeah,
where you're
yeah,
exhausted and you're trying to get to your room at 11:30 or 12 o'clock, and that you have to walk another 75 yards to get to your room.
sure,
It's like,
sure.
no, I want to just walk in, boom, done. So but anyway, all right. Thanks a lot for joining, everyone. Thanks a lot for
Yeah.
popping in, and you all have a great night. And Roger, I will